Hey guys, I'm Nick. This is a short video put together in response to requests I received on the BMW Luxury Touring forum asking about how I got the remote buttons to work with a third-party stereo that I fitted. Okay, so let's back up a bit. First of all, a few years ago I fitted this Kenwood CD player stereo to replace the sort of standard BMW one. First of all, you're obviously going to have to strip all the Tupperware off, take the Stingray out, undo that, and this kind of tray is what you're left with. And at that point you can then take out the standard CD unit, and it turns out that that is a standard DIN size, which means you can replace it with any single slot stereo within reason. I suppose anything that's relying on this front face folding fully down to get to the CD slot or something, especially if it's motorized, that's probably not going to work so well because there's not a lot of clearance underneath it. But apart from that proviso, pretty much any standard stereo is going to work in here. I know some people like to fit marine radios because they're concerned about it getting wet. I have to say that in the probably year or 2 years that I've had this fitted, I've ridden in some pretty heavy rain. I've never had any problems with this getting wet at all. I probably wouldn't use a jet wash to clean the bike, but then actually I don't think you're supposed to use a jet wash to clean this anyway, so no loss there. And as I say, I've had no problems with this whatsoever. For European riders, this is a DAB radio as well. I fitted the DAB aerial in the top trunk. I took it apart, lifted the carpet out, and then the DAB aerial was just a sort of self-adhesive strip of wire that I stuck to the inside of the plastic, and then fed the aerial wire back through the same routing that the cables go for the top light and the courtesy light. There's a route for electrical cables to come through. Followed it through, sent the aerial up to the front, and I've had no problems with reception at all, so that's proved to be quite a good place to stick the DAB aerial. Anyway, that's the stereo. Onto the remote buttons. Now, modern steering wheels have so many buttons on them that it's not really practical to have one wire per button all going down in some kind of big bundle down to the stereo. It's not a problem for our handlebar buttons, but modern stereos expect something other than one wire for each button. Now, I think the most modern steering wheels have a circuit board in here, and the buttons are actually converted to digital data right here, and then just a couple of wires send that down onto the car's data bus. But a slightly older and slightly simpler system is something called a resistor ladder. Now, in this system, there's only two wires that come in, and then each button connects those two wires together, but through a different resistor. So you see, if we push this button here, that's 100 ohms, let's say. Push this next button, that's, let's say, 500 ohms, and so on. And so in that way, the stereo, or the system reading it, can tell which button we've pressed just by looking at these two wires. So back on the bike, what we need now is some way of converting all of these different button presses, all feeding different resistances, into a single system that the stereo can understand. And what I'm using to do that is this box here. It's called a Unico Dual Plus, and it's made by an Italian company called paser.it. I bought it in a local car audio specialist. I'm sure there'll be places locally that you can find this, and if not, I'm sure you'll be able to buy it on the internet, either somewhere locally or possibly even direct from the company. They are pretty good. I've emailed them in the past for support, and they got back to me pretty quickly. Now, when I first fitted this, I actually made my own resistor ladder system, a little circuit board, fed all the wires in, set it all up, and then fed that into this box here. It worked okay, but it wasn't brilliant. I spoke to the company, and they explained that this has actually got its own resistor ladder built in. So what we need to do is connect up the pink wire to the common for these buttons. You probably want to check in the climber manual for your wire colour to make sure you're getting the right connections, but for me that was brown and blue. And then you connect up all the other buttons, or all the connections to the buttons, to the various different aux wires on the pacer here. So I've got a green, and I've got a grey and a black. Anyway, the instructions are, once you realise what it's trying to tell you, are a bit more obvious. And of course it doesn't actually matter which button goes to which wire, because we're going to in a minute teach it which button does what. And then a single output from this box goes into the back of the stereo remote connection there, and then all we do is switch the system on, do a quick kind of learning process to show it which button equals which function, and then we tell it which stereo we're using, and that's it, it's done. So to program it then, I'm going to switch the system on. It comes to life. Hopefully you can see there's a little green light there. Just turn this radio down. It originally comes with like a little sort of plastic resetting button you stick in this hole. Now I've managed to lose that in the last couple of years, but a small slotted screwdriver works just as well. So to get the process going, or to reset it, we just stick the screwdriver in the hole here, push and hold, the light will go red and then out. And once it's out, that's it, reset, and it's ready to start learning. So now all we do is press the buttons in a set sequence, and every time I press one you should see the little light flashes which says that it's registered a button press. If you get the sequence wrong, or sometimes if you don't hit the button firmly enough, then it kind of registers 2 presses or something. If anything goes wrong at all, if it hasn't worked to the end, we just need to reset it. Same process again. Ooh. That's it. Once the light's out, then it's reset, and we start the process again. So it's always volume down, red light, volume up. Okay, I didn't see a red light there. Let me just reset that and try again. So volume down, red light, volume up, red light. And then it is seek minus, red light, seek plus. And then the next one is, on my stereo at least, is source. I didn't have a button for that, so as you can see I've fitted one here. This is just an IP67, so a waterproof button inside a small little plastic box, bolted on here, and then the cable for it I've sent down the handlebars, through and round. Don't forget to use some form of connector so you can get it apart, otherwise when servicing you're not going to be able to get the stereo out without cutting the wires. So anyway, this is my source button. Press that and hopefully we'll get a red light for that. There we go. And then the next one's mute. Well, we got a button for that, so mute. And then we've also got up and down. I didn't bother fitting up and down buttons because in my stereo it didn't seem to do anything useful. I tried earlier just mapping this button to up and down, seeing if it had any effect, and it did something, but it wasn't of use to me, so I didn't bother with that. But perhaps if you get a stereo that needs that, then this system can also encode up and down. And then there's a phone answer. Well, I'm not using this with a phone. And finally source again, which seems to be just the repeat. So because I don't want to use any of those buttons, I just press and hold one of the buttons I've already assigned. So we'll try that, and after a few seconds the light should go yellow, I think. There it is. Okay, so that's the button teaching process done. Now we just need to tell it what stereo we're using it with. In the instructions, it gives a whole list of stereo manufacturers and a number for each one. Now I'm using Kenwood, and happily that's number 2. At the moment you see it's just giving me a single green flash. That means it's on stereo 1, which is Clarion. So we need to go up 1 by pressing the volume up button. And now we're getting a double flash. So that means we're on stereo number 2, which is good for us. And so that's all we need to do. Just press the seek up button. It's gone yellow and the system is now programmed. So now, hopefully, there we go, controlling the volume with it. We can tune. And hopefully my new source button is going to switch us to other inputs. There we go. So it's a pretty simple system. Using its built-in resistors, I think is going to work a lot better than the first attempt I made. I put this box here, and once the Stingray goes on top, it all fits in nicely. There's enough room for that to happen. I did think about maybe putting the box somewhere else, because obviously to get to this point you've got to take a lot of plastic off. But actually, once it's programmed, I think it tends to work okay. You don't really need access to it. So as long as it's working at this point, we should be okay now to close it all up, put everything back together, and hopefully that's going to give me many miles of happy motoring. Okay, well, half an hour or so later, it's all put back together and it's all still working, I'm pleased to say. As you can see, because I no longer needed the buttons on the top here, I took that bit out, and for want of anything else to do, I put this sort of clear plastic lid on. The idea is sort of perhaps that I might fit some rails here to slot my mobile into, and perhaps use it as a sat nav or something. I don't know. That's work in progress. But anyway, I hope the video was useful. Feel free to drop me a line if you've got any questions or need any more information. And otherwise, good luck and stay safe.
Live sessions this week.